The coach. You don't play. There's not one coach I played for where I went out on that field and said, you know what? This game I'm playing for you, coach. You can like your coach. You can dislike your coach. You don't go out and play for your coach. If you don't go out and play for the fact that you're playing and give your effort, and I get it. Mike brought it up last hour. I get it when all is falling apart and it's not that cohesive unit. I do understand it can be tougher. But the line about not playing for the coach, forget that. Like players don't play for the coach.
Oh, no. Usually, in a lot of cases, it can end up being the opposite. You can play in spite of, but I guess to the point about leadership in this is that then it falls on not only the coach, but the leadership in that organization to identify and say, okay, if these are the players that are mailing in right now that need some sort of coach's rah-rah speech to get them going, those are the guys we need gone. Like, we need the guys that are going to be self-motivated enough by, A, the paycheck that we're throwing their way because this is a business transaction, and B, their own pride in their professional work, that wouldn't be the case.
Here's my thought, and the tweeter's right. We all see what's going on. What is your motive for giving an anonymous quote? What do you think you're accomplishing by that? Are you trying to let the world know, hey, it's a mess in here, it ain't me. I can play ball. I can ball. Okay? There's all these other reasons on why I'm not looking really good on the field right now, and it ain't me. That's what's going on right here.
That was the point I did a terrible job of trying to make earlier with my concept of whistleblowers, which is to give information anonymously if you're deep throat and this is an investigation into something of that magnitude, right. If people's lives are at stake and things like that. That's admirable. To be giving anonymous quotes inside a football locker room about how things are deteriorating around you is cowardly. I would agree with that.
You're trying to tell everybody why it's not your fault, is what you're doing.
That part I would maybe dispute just because your name's not on it, so no one knows where to not assign the blame in this outside of Josina Anderson, who was the one who had this specifically. So if you want Josina to know it's not your fault, congratulations, you accomplished that bit of good. This to me seems you want to signal to everyone else, like, there's problems and we need change. Like this is kind of like a little coup, right? Well, like you see the way this is going and you would like for everyone to know, including management. We always talk about when coaches get up in front of the mic, they're very aware of the message that they're sending to players who are listening. This player is probably very aware, I'd assume, of the message he's sending to everyone else, which is that there is disarray here. People above making decisions, take note of just how much chaos is going on within your building if you haven't already.
In my case, I'm not giving an anonymous quote that much credit. I'm just not. To me, I get what you're saying, but I'm also saying that these anonymous quote players are on the field and see that they're getting beat, see that they're not playing well, see that they're losing. And to me, part of their anonymous quote is to give an excuse on why that's happening. It's because we're in disarray. It's because our coach is not a leader. It's because he doesn't have a game plan. That's why we look this way. We're not really this bad. When last year, I believe, you had the same coach, right? Pretty much same players?
They did have the same coach. Now, 17 of their players are on injured reserve this year, so it's the second most in the league. So a lot of the same players aren't there. They were on the roster. They've been injured. But, yes, your point is well taken. This is essentially the same team that made the playoffs last year, and no one seemed to have a problem with the coach.
We also know that winning and how well the team performs can make a coach look better than he is. I'm not going to let Ben McAdoo skate in all of this. You learn a lot about people when the chips go down. But to your point, this all really comes back to this idea, and it really is, I guess, based on the situations we laid down. Either the person throwing out anonymous quotes is really smart and calculated and underhanded, or really dumb because you're trying to absolve yourself from blame in a way that points to absolutely no one in particular who would be absolved from that blame.
Exactly right. And at the end of the day, I think we all believe McAdoo is going to be gone and the whole thing is going to start over again. But they've got, 8 more games? You got 8 more games of this stuff. And now, listen, this is what the daily, the beat reporters are going to do. They're going to get in there and they're going to pry and they're going to ask and they're going to pry and they're going to pry. And you may get more stuff. Yeah, it's going to be interesting what now comes out of that locker room.
All right, let's get on to some other stuff here. Yep. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive celebrating 5 years and more than 500 cars donated to vets. To learn more, visit keystoprogress.com. Okay, a blockbuster story yesterday in the New York Times and then expanded upon by our crew at Outside the Lines. Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, and this is what I was referring to when I said there are some things in life even billions of dollars cannot always buy you. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, who has emerged as, I think, probably the most powerful voice in the National Football League. But is that Is that
do we say powerful or most heard? He's not afraid to be heard, but is he the most powerful?
Well, I
guess we could find out here.
Yeah. So somehow, I think when you have the biggest stadium, when you have the biggest team, when your team is the Cowboys, I feel like he's in the center of everything. He puts himself in the center of everything. There, yeah. Well, let me even take that out of it. I shouldn't have gone down that road. The Cowboys owner has hired famed lawyer David Boies. And people know David Boies. He represented Al Gore in the recount of the election in 2000. He actually represented the NFL in the CBA negotiations some years ago.
2011, yeah.
He has hired him, and together they are exploring the option of suing the league if Roger Goodell is awarded a contract extension after the 2018 season, as is being considered. And by the way, not just being considered. I mean, there is a belief that the committee that is assigned to put this together, of which Jones is not a member, is ready to move forward with the contract extension for Goodell at huge amounts of money. Jerry Jones has jumped into the middle of this, and in the story, as you read it further, not only is he threatening to sue the league, he's actually threatening to sue other individual owners in this. So you're talking about a guy who has not only gone rogue, but he is taking a huge stand, and this has been set up now really strongly as Jerry Jones on one side, Roger Goodell on the other, and it will be fascinating to see which owners fall where as it goes. Junior.
Well, that seems to be the point of all this because, you heard our legal analysts say, what are they going to sue them for? What is he going to sue them for? What grounds is there to actually take legal action in all of this? So it seems to be about figuring out where the line in the sand is. Like, to your point, Jerry Jones is good at inserting himself into situations where he may not even be supposed to be in a lot of these. Like you mentioned, the compensation committee that's a part of deciding on the future of Roger Goodell's contract. It has 6 members. Jerry Jones isn't a member, but all we hear in this article is that he's basically been like a pseudo 7th member. He considers himself a 7th member. He's on a lot of the calls. He has a lot of this information, and that group asked him to leave, told the other owners, this is what's going on. This is what he plans to do. And so now you've kind of got a choice where either you let the fox into the den and you start having these lines divided and the whole place turns on it, or you check this guy. Like, this is a guy who's losing control, who's very used to, like all these owners are, of being billionaires and controlling every little part of their world. And when you rip control from this guy in a way that's happened in a few instances, one, financially, he believes because of protest, and 2, I guess in another way financially, because you're messing with one of his biggest assets in Zeke Elliott on a weekly basis now. You have ripped control from this guy, and you see how billionaires respond when you make control go away.
Again, Jerry Jones, to where he served the paper, basically this compensation committee, Jerry Jones told them legal papers were being drawn up and would be served Friday if the committee did not scrap its plans to extend Goodell's contract. What's he suing? And he hasn't said what are the base and what are the grounds. He hasn't identified the grounds of the lawsuit. I have no idea. To me, and others have said it, I'm not the one with this idea. A lot of people believe it's just a scare tactic. He has absolutely zero basis to sue anybody in this. But you're right, and the term they use is he wasn't part of the 6 compensation committee member. He was made an ad hoc member. So he was, here you're kind of a member now, you can have a say, and now that ad hoc has been revoked. Now those 6 have said, okay, Jerry, you're no longer part of this at all. What it's going to do, basically, is you're going to find out, because you need 24 votes, okay? When you say sue the league, it's like, who are you suing? It's like when you sue the NCAA, who are you suing? The university presidents? If you say you're suing the league, are you suing the owners? The owners of the league. The owners are the ones who hire Roger Goodell. So basically, I think that Jerry Jones is really firmly planting his foot in taking the temperature of, okay, who's with me? Who wants him out? Now's our chance. And supposedly there are 4 or 5 owners that do, and then supposedly a bunch of fence sitters of who they're kind of, that's who you go after. There are people that will want Roger Goodell back. There are those that won't want him back. And then there are the fence sitters that are going to decide this whole thing. And those are the ones that you're going for. And the one thing I will say, Jerry Jones inserts himself into a lot of situations. But what's one thing about all these billionaires? None of them want to be considered followers. Right? They all want to be considered leaders. So how many just start following Jerry Jones? That's going to be an interesting one. Just because he's the loudest in the room doesn't mean everyone's going to say, yeah, we're with Jerry. We stand behind Jerry.
Well, I think part of it might be how much they want to follow Jerry, but part of it might be how they perceive the job that Goodell has done.
Yep.
So Roger Goodell has built himself enormous equity, and I choose that word specifically, with the owners because of the way he handled the 2011 CBA negotiations. By everyone's estimation, he won that thing in a knockout in the first round, right? But now you could argue, anyone could have, that the NFL owners are so much more powerful, have such deeper pockets for all the reasons that we've gone over 1 trillion times on this show, that maybe anyone would have won that collective bargaining agreement, but he won it big, and it has made the owners hundreds of millions of dollars each. So you build up a lot of equity with guys when you do that for them, and that's why they pay you $44 million in a year. Since that time, one thing after another has gone wrong. And in no particular order, it has included the way the league has handled domestic violence, the way the league has handled the protests that have involved kneeling during the national anthem, that have so inflamed passions across the country, the way it has handled the issue of the way the league is perceived regarding CTE and other things. Now, these are all really complicated issues that I'm not sure anybody would have handled perfectly. But it could be argued, and maybe there are owners in that fraternity who argue, that the league is 0 for 3 on those, the 3 biggest issues facing them right now. And as a consequence, why would we just rubber stamp a contract extension for the guy in charge at huge dollars?
And that's what they believe they're paying him to do, right, is make those problems, mitigate them, make some of them go away, and make them less of a problem for the owners who want to just sit there and collect that paycheck. Because this is basically a really high-profile contract negotiation. Like, Roger Goodell wants no business of taking less money at this point. He's become accustomed to a lifestyle that's netted him $200 million so far from these guys. And the ultimate example of that phrase being really a complete farce, that it's not personal, it's just business, the whole reason this business is getting muddy because Jerry Jones was in on this committee extending Roger Goodell at the owners' meetings months ago. But since that time period, it's gotten personal because Jerry Jones's best player has been basically going through what Tom Brady went through last year with the Deflategate saga, where it's a week in, week out trial of the guy that you want on the field so you can win. And it's ultimately rubbed him the wrong way enough. The same way being left out of those meetings, I'm sure at the last round of ownership meetings about the protest, rubbed Jerry Jones the wrong way. Like, he's being pushed out of a lot of the rooms that he has forced himself in the center of for a long time, and he's clearly not responding well.
And if you look at the relationship between Jerry Jones, I'm sorry, Mike, and Papa John, and Papa John coming out and talking publicly about it being a lack of leadership, what was the word he used, a failure of leadership, whatever the specific word he used was, there are many people who perceive that to have been Jerry Jones' words in the mouth of one of the league's most significant partners and sponsors. So you can see where this battle have been drawn. I really don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, boy, certainly he's thrown the other pizza places at Papa John. I don't think it's really gone the way Papa John expected this thing to go, quite honestly. To Mike's point about the money, since August 2006 when he became commissioner, he has made $200 million, including $44 million in 2014, $34 million in 2015, and he's somewhat angry. The reports are that he's somewhat angry that they want to make this contract more performance-based, basically saying, I'm making these guys a lot of money. You have that?
Let me play that side of it, because we haven't gotten to that.
Yeah.
There's all this owner's side of it.
Yeah.
Then there's Goodell's side of it. Now, we know Roger Goodell, Mike and I do, over the years and stuff like that. Most people obviously don't have a personal relationship with him, but we don't know him so well. I mean, we don't socialize together or anything like that. But there's one thing, the most important thing you read in that thing is he's made over $200 million.
Yes, he has.
He doesn't have Jerry Jones money, but he's got more than enough money to walk away from this if he decides, I don't need this anymore, and live a very, he's got as much money as almost any NBA superstar has. So he could walk away if he doesn't need this anymore. And our Seth Wickersham, who along with Don Van Natta has done magnificent reporting on all of this, suggests he doesn't think it's impossible that may happen.
There's some people who say, look, Jerry's kind of ready for a new commissioner, and he has some people in mind. There's other people who are saying, look, he wants an incentive-based deal with less guaranteed money. And we've been told that Roger Goodell does not want to take a deal like that. And he feels like he's made these guys a bunch of money. He's taken a ton of bullets for them over the years, and he doesn't think he deserves a haircut.
To me, this is what it all comes down to. And in this article, it said most owners would admit Rodgers done a terrible job handling the anthem controversy, terrible job explaining the TV ratings decline, a terrible job on a number of other issues. And if they want to say a terrible job, what does it all come down to? It comes down to money. Because those owners sitting in that room understand that they're going to take some PR hits, and they can deal with PR hits. but it's when they hit their pocket, right? That's going to be the issue to them. And that's one thing Jerry is looking into. Can he bring in and show financials that actually show, hey, guys, Roger Goodell is costing you money? If he can do that, that to me is going to be all the difference in the world, because the NFL can take a lot. It can take a lot of abuse, and Roger Goodell's the one that takes a lot of the abuse and gets a big paycheck for it. They can take a lot. But the owners, they will start to, it's just like when things go wrong at companies, and when does the company really sit up and take notice? Well, when the big advertisers start pulling it, it costs them money. It's the same thing here. When the owners all of a sudden realize, you know what? Not as much money is going into my pocket. We may need to rethink this. So to me, Mike, that's what it all comes down to is, can it be shown, and this is what Jerry Jones is going to want to do, hey, Roger Goodell is actually costing us money. If he can prove that, he may get them to side with him. If he can't, it's a $14 billion a year industry that is just stuffing money into the pockets of the owners. If that's not going to change much, Roger Goodell is going to be the commissioner.
My interest in this lies is what comes next, because we have basically one of what I see as two outcomes mainly that can happen. Is one is Jerry Jones can get that group on his side, and we likely face the prospect of a new commissioner for the first time in a while. Because if Jerry Jones can get enough people on his side, that's the way this goes. If Roger Goodell really isn't into the business of taking less money to do the same job, then you assume there's going to be a different guy, and it's going to be Jerry's guy more than likely, because that seems to be the other part of this people are disgruntled with. So we've got that where we either see a change in the power atop the league, or we see a change in the power of one of the chief movers and shakers in Jerry Jones. Because if you go and call everyone else out, if you're that friend in your fantasy league that starts pointing at everyone else and saying you're cheating, you're this, you're that, and then everyone sides against you, what happens? You're usually not back in that fantasy league the next year. And they can't make Jerry sell the Cowboys, but they can potentially make his voice and see his voice become a lot quieter in those meeting rooms and freeze him out a little bit more based on basically trying to stage a coup.
Mike and Mike presented by Shell Pennzoil. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. So before I pose this question, and I'm going to take it to break on the question, before I pose it, I want to make it clear. I do not believe Roger Goodell is going to be replaced as the NFL commissioner anytime soon. I believe the outcome of all of this is that he is going to remain the commissioner. I don't know exactly what the mechanics of it will be, but I think he's going to be the commissioner. He's going to get another contract, and he's going to stay. Having said that, it is sort of an interesting exercise. Who would become the commissioner if he were to be out? Roger Goodell, for those who don't know, succeeded Paul Tagliabue, but Goodell has been working for the league for decades. He was there. He worked his way up to becoming, sort of the number 2 guy at the league, but he's been there forever, and he's been someone that they've known forever. I don't think that person exists right now. Maybe there's someone in there that I'm not aware of. I don't think that person exists. I do not know. So when baseball was looking for a new commissioner, they stayed inside. They hired Rob Manfred, who was, I believe, the COO, whatever he was. He was the guy under Selig for years and years and years. Adam Silver, same thing. David Stern, he was the number 2 guy. He was being groomed. He was being prepped. He was ready to go. This is a different circumstance. This isn't Roger Goodell at 70 deciding he's going to retire and someone new. I think they would have to go outside, and it is kind of an interesting question. Who would make a good commissioner for the National Football League?
You're not going to say you, are you?
No.
Yeah, this seemed like